Chapter 6. Elevators don't read minds.
You stop at the stop sign, but your mind doesn't stop with you. The car on the cross street pulls away and disappears into the distance. You sit and wait for the sign to turn green. Don't pretend you haven't done it, we all have. I walk alone into an elevator and the door closes behind me. I wait and wait, but nothing happens. After a couple of minutes, I realize, elevators don't read minds. I have to push a button. You and I have so much to remember that we often forget what we're doing. We are the unfortunate victims of overchoice. Too much to do, too little time. The problem is nationwide. I tell you this to remind you of something that most advertisers forget. The customer is seldom paying attention. She simply has too many other things to think about. When exposed to your ad, she knows it's there, the same way I know the elevator button is there. The problem is that she's not thinking about it. Every beginner's solution is to put an attention getter into the ad. Bright colors, loud noises, exclamation marks, and crazy stunts are the sad little attention getters most often used. The effect on your beautiful customer is much the same as sneaking up behind her and shouting, "Watch out!" Is this any way to start a romance? I vote for seduction. I'm not talking about using sex appeal in your ads. I'm talking about enticing the customer with a thought more interesting than the thought she's thinking. The skillful use of words is the most impressive of human powers. The mind of the customer is a glorious thing. Every waking moment, it is scanning the horizon for things of interest. The common, the mundane, the average, the predictable are ignored. The unusual, the intriguing, the fascinating are immediately spied and examined. If your goal is to cause the customer to willingly give you her attention, isn't the solution obvious? You must offer her a thought more interesting than the thought that currently occupies her mind. This does not require shouting. It requires art. In your advertising, you must choose between boredom, shouting, and seduction. Which do you choose?
Chapter 7. Pushing a car.
Have you ever had to push a car? Using your back and your legs and every ounce of strength you can summon, you gasp and strain and make faces as the doubt flickers through your mind. I'm not sure I can do this. Then the car moves its first inch and you find strength you never knew you had. The second inch is slightly easier, but now you're thinking, I'm not sure I can last. By the time you've moved it a yard, all doubts have fled. Of course I can do this. I can do anything. Soon you're pushing just hard enough to keep the car rolling as you trot along behind it, basking in the applause of an imaginary crowd. Launching an ad campaign is exactly like pushing a car. I believe there are certain laws of the universe that cannot be cheated, and that these laws apply in every area of our lives. One of these is the law of inertia. My dictionary defines inertia as the tendency of all objects and matter in the universe to stay still if still, or, if moving, to go on moving in the same direction. Your car doesn't begin to roll the moment you begin to push, and it doesn't stop rolling the moment you quit. The inertia that is your enemy at first becomes your ally in the end. Momentum is a wonderful thing, isn't it? But it never comes cheaply. Likewise, advertising doesn't begin to work as quickly as you would like, but it also doesn't quit working until long after it has been abandoned. Assuming, of course, that you ever got it rolling at all. So where are you now? Are you trotting along behind the car, providing the nudge it needs to keep rolling, or are you still pushing with all your strength in an attempt to pick up speed? If ever you find yourself straining and doubting, call your ad man. He's been waiting his whole life for the chance to help you push that car.
Chapter 8, Home Movies.
This is me at the Grand Canyon. This is me standing in front of Niagara Falls. This is me scuba diving in the Caribbean. This is an idiot showing home movies. The problem with home movies is never the content, but always the perspective. Scuba diving in the Caribbean is an adventure best experienced without some fool standing in front of the camera telling you what he had for lunch or what he's about to do. Oh, now the whole family's waving at the camera, see? The genius of Jacques Cousteau is that he points the camera always at the underwater cave, the shark, the sunken ship, never at himself. We experience his undersea world and are hypnotized. Jacques takes us there. You see only the tip of the canoe at the bottom of the screen, the smooth, swift river ahead. The current quickens and you hear a distant roar. The horizon draws near as the river shortens and the water grows more insistent. The roar now deafening, the current compelling, the tip of the canoe hangs for a moment in empty space, then tips sharply 90 degrees. You fall 168 feet in an eternal 3 seconds. Suddenly the roar is gone and all light disappears with it. You are momentarily in absolute darkness. Now light reappears and grows slowly brighter as you rise gently toward the surface. This is how Jacques Cousteau would show you Niagara Falls. If you will write powerful advertising, you must point the movie camera of language to that place in the mind where you want the listener to go. The imagination can be a powerful thing, but only when the listener is a participant in your movie. Bad advertising is like home movies. In your ads, please never point the camera at yourself. You're just not that interesting.
Chapter 9, The important one is you.
You're writing an ad that needs to produce results. Your ad writing teachers have taught you to say the name of the company at least 7 times in every ad. Your experience tells you that cramming the name of the company into places where it wouldn't normally be heard will just make the ad sound like an ad. You've wrestled with this problem, haven't you? The teacher who taught you to say the name of the company at least 7 times is probably the same teacher who taught you to use loud noises and sound effects as attention getters, and that words like discount and sale are irresistible. I won't call this teacher a fool, but I think he'll do nicely until a real fool comes along. The most irresistible word in the English language has only 3 letters. No, it's not S-E-X. The most powerful of all words is you. You engages the imagination of the listener. It puts the action of your spot in present tense active. Skillful use of the word you makes the listener a participant in your ad. Here's a 60-second example.
You are standing in the snow 5 1/2 miles above sea level, gazing at a horizon hundreds of miles away. Life here is very simple. You live or you die. No compromises, no whining, no second chances. This is a place constantly ravaged by wind and storm, where every ragged breath is an accomplishment. You stand on the uppermost pinnacle of the earth. This is the mountain they call Everest. Yesterday it was considered unbeatable, but that was yesterday. As Edmund Hillary surveyed the horizon from the peak of Mount Everest, he monitored the time on a wristwatch that had been specifically designed to withstand the fury of the world's most angry mountain. Rolex believed Sir Edmund would conquer the mountain, and especially for him they created the Rolex Explorer. In every life, there's a Mount Everest to be conquered. When you have conquered yours, you'll find your Rolex waiting patiently for you to come and pick it up at Justice Jewelers, your official Rolex jeweler on Highway 65 at Battlefield Road. I'm Woody Justice, and I've got a Rolex for you.
Did you hear the wind whistling past the microphone? Did you feel the awesome solitude? Were you proud to be standing on the pinnacle of the earth? In that radio ad, you already owned a Rolex that was waiting patiently for you to come and pick it up. As a listener, you're inextricably engaged by the power of the imagery. By the end of this 60-second ad, ownership of the watch has already been transferred. It all begins with the word you.
Chapter 10. No Laughing Matter.
Good ads are either intellectual, information-focused, or emotional, experience-focused. A well-written, emotional ad causes the listener to imagine herself taking precisely the action you would like her to take. As you step across the ancient, tree-filled lawn toward the torch-lit gates of the Plaza del Fuego, the cares of the day melt into forgetfulness as you anticipate the evening ahead. There is no finer meal to be had on earth. There's no place quite like this one. When the decision to be made is not an emotional one, however, your ad must appeal to the intellect instead. And an intellectual ad is no laughing matter. Most people write intellectual ads the same way they tell a joke. They open with an obscure reference to what's coming, then add relevant data little by little, working their way up to the punchline. This is the worst possible way to write an ad. An ad is not a joke. Those listening to a joke are committed to listening. Those listening to an ad are not. Bad intellectual ads begin with a setup wherein the writer tries to set the stage for the argument he plans to make. As these ads drone on, the customer thinks, "Get to the point, blurt it out, tell me plainly what's in it for me." In less than 7 seconds, the customer stops listening entirely. A bad intellectual ad may take 15 seconds or more to get to the point. Worse still, when the point is finally made, it usually answers a question no one's asking. A good intellectual ad begins by delivering a punchline directly to a felt need, then quickly substantiating any claims made during the opening statement. Today's public prefers that you prove what you say. Intellectual or emotional, a good ad is a satisfying experience. Are your ads satisfying, or are they a joke?